What's going on, guys? Zane here, back with another video. For this one, I'm going to be going off of a previous video, which was the super basic stuff for C++. This one, I'm going to be going through some variable stuff, but we're going to keep it super basic just so that you guys can digest the material and then use it to your liking for your projects. So first thing I want to explain is the different types of variables. So let me just comment out here. So different types of variables. So the first one we have is the int type. So we have, let's just do int. We also have double, which is also the float, also the decimal. We've got character, for char for character. We've got string, and we've got bool. So int, just a whole number. Double is the floating or decimal. Char or char is the character, string is a string, and bool is either true or false. So we have stuff like, I'm going to remove this, just know that double is for decimal. So if we would have, let's say, int a equals 10, semicolon. We've now declared a variable of type int called a, and we set it to 10. Let's say we have a double. We'll say double b is equal to 6.9. See what I did there? Anyway, int 10, double b 6.9, char c equals, let's do c, semicolon, semicolon, string, we'll do d equals string. And lastly, bool e equals true. So a few things that we want to mention here. First, you see that there's a squiggly line under the string because we did not use the standard namespace in front of the string. So we by default need to do that unless we were doing something like this. As I mentioned in my previous video, this is something you will need to use if you're using the std namespace. But this is not necessarily best practice because it will have namespace conflicts. So going forward, I'm not going to be using this, but just know that this is something that may speed up your code when you're starting off. So let's just remove this and let's first try if things are working out. I'm going to go to my terminal here, and I have a whole bunch of stuff here. So to clear this out, just type in CLS and hit enter. And now let's do our g++ space current problem.cbp. That's the name of my file. Hit enter. Now we see that there's still some issues. Now the reason for that is because I removed the namespace standard std, but I didn't add it back here. So let's do that. Standard : and now let's see if it runs. There's still an error. So constant c. I believe the issue for this one is actually we need to change this to a single quote. Let's try that. There we go. So this is a distinction I wanted to make between string and character, where a string goes in double quotes while a character goes in single quotes. So please keep that in mind. So now that everything processed properly, what we can do is if we go down and we print out every single one of these, we'll get exactly what we need. So we'll do standard cout to print out, and then we can just do A, B, C, D, E. Let's see how that works. There's going to be like no spaces in between, so it will be a little weird. Let's run the program. Yeah, so it's all there. It's just that it's all put into its own, like it's all put together. So to fix that, what we can do is actually just do standard cout A, and let me remove this, and we'll end the line here. Now we're gonna do B, C, D, E, and let's just change this B, C, D, E. Now when we run the code, we'll compile first and then run. Whoops. There we go. Now it's all in separate lines so we can see it clearly. So these are some of the basic functions, some of the basic variables. These are very important when you're doing your programming because you're going to see these a lot. like all of these. Maybe not character as much, but the rest of them you most likely will. But character is definitely still used and is very useful for when you're doing your programs. Now, I do want to go into the string variable a little bit more because there's a lot of things you can do with strings and also vectors. I actually didn't mention vectors here because strings might actually work out for you for beginners, but just for the sake of completeness, I will mention vectors. So we have the vector variable as well, and this one is essentially a list. So a vector could be of type something. So a vector of type int, or even it could be a vector of type string, or it could even be a vector of type bool. So whatever your vector is, you need to declare what type it is as well. And you also need to have the standard. So this is, I'm going to write out something here. So this is how you declare a vector. We have the std : just like the string up here. Then we have to declare what type of vector it is. So if it's a bunch of numbers, then it'll be of type int. If it's a bunch of characters, it'll be type char. If it's true or falses, a bunch of these are true, false, true or something, then it'll be type bool. But you need to declare that first, otherwise it will not run. And then we just put in the name of our variable, just like we have here, a, b, c, d, e, f, and then here we do equals to, and then our list. The list must begin with these curly brackets. So please keep in mind that the beginning and end will have to be in the curly brackets. One other thing is that since we are using IOStream here, string was able to work, but in most cases you'll have to include a separate library for vector. So to do that, you just do include vector, and that should completely allow you to run this code. Now let's just add it here at the end. I'm going to remove this here because I don't want an extra space. And now let's compile and run. Okay, let's see, no type in struct enable, okay. Alright, standard cout. This one is not allowing me to proceed. Let's take a look at why. Standard ostream, okay. Let's see, standard vector f. This is an open brackets. Right. Okay, so this is one of the things I wanted to mention about the vector. So the vector here, although we have it listed here as a regular cout, this one will not work because we are not able to simply print out the entire vector. To print out the vector, we need to actually loop through the entire vector and print out each individual character. So what I mean by that is if we were to remove this, this will work. This, if we were to compile and run, this will all work up to this here. You'll see that 10 is here, 6.9, C, string, and 1 for true. So 0 is false, 1 is true. Just keep that in mind. But the vector here will not print out. This is fine to declare, but there's nothing printed out. Even when we tried printing it out like this, it will not work. Reason is we have to loop through it. So to loop through it, we need to do our for loop, and I'm going to do a real basic one right here. So we'll do for, and then here in the brackets we do int I, and we start off at the first index, so int I equals 0, semicolon, I is less than f, so the vector's name dot size with the brackets, semicolon, and then I plus plus, meaning we want to increment. Open up these curly brackets, and now we need to do something as we go through each element. So all we're doing here is we're going to be printing out the element I at that particular vector. So again, we did the for loop, we declared an int I, we set it to 0 because we want to begin at the start of the vector. I is less than the full size of the vector because we want it to stay within range of the length of the vector. We want to increment. Once the iteration is done, we increment I by 1, and then all we're doing is for every element that we pass through, we want to print that element. So f at I is going to be that element, which with whatever iteration we're at. So now once we have this, all we need to do is compile and run again. And there we go. So you'll see that we have the regular stuff here up till the bool true, and then we have 1, 2, 3, which is our vector right here. And that was it. So I wanted to keep this one very short. This is just a very basic tutorial on how to do some variable stuff, and vectors gets a little bit complicated because of the nature of how they're set up and how they're printed out, or even how you deal with certain aspects of it, like if you wanted to multiply or find or insert, whatever the case is. That is something a little different. So I will wrap it up here, but if you guys have any questions, comments, or feedback, please let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, hit that like and subscribe button, show me some love, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.